Most timber frame buildings are traditionally held together with wooden pegs, and in roundwood timber framing that's no different. So what we're doing here is making some pegs for the building. We're using oak. This is oak that I actually cut over a year ago, and I've been allowing to dry. The reason for that is we want the pegs to be more seasoned than the frame, so as the frame dries out it will shrink tight onto the pegs and therefore holding the building together that much better. Traditional sort of green oak frames use a process called draw pegging, where you have a tapered peg, and the tapered peg is hammered in between two holes which are offset, so as the peg goes through it draws the joint together. Now with roundwood timber framing that's not so easy, because we've got the this third dimension of this extra curve in the timber. So the process we use is creating a cylindrical peg, and we do that by first of all ripping down the oak into a square section, and then, as Mark's doing here, start to work it on the shaving horse, using a draw knife to take off the edges and work it down so it's then ready to go into something we call a rounding plane. And a rounding plane is basically a giant pencil sharpener. And what it does is, by working it down, this little spoke-shaped blade will turn this into a nice even cylinder. These planes come in different sizes. This one is 25mm, so I'll know the exact size of peg I'm getting, which will come out this end. So it's literally a process of just working the rounding plane down through the oak and getting a peg of the perfect cylindrical diameter we need for jointing the timber. These rounding planes we get from Asham Crafts, and Asham Crafts is run by a great character called Peter Hindle, and Peter's been supplying me these now for about 15 years. Peter worked with these quite early on with Fred Lambert, making traditional country chairs, which Peter still makes. And these, to us, are the real essential tool for peg making.
They were made originally as wood tools for making rungs on fruit picking ladders. We eventually developed them into a casting, and using a spoke shave blade works very efficiently. We used them to begin with by hand, by rotating them on a piece of wood to make a round dowel. Eventually then, the originator, Fred Lambert, decided he needed some mechanical means. Now a lathe, wood turning lathe, was far too fast. So what he did, he developed a little gearbox system where we could slow the speed down, right down to about 60 RPM. So we used a little gearbox out of a three-wheeler Reliant, and it had, of course, the 4 speeds, and in the bottom speed, with a 4-to-1 reduction with the pulleys, from an electric motor we got a speed of about 60 RPM. Put it into the 4th gear and you've got 400 RPM, which is all right for very, very thin dowels. So the thicker the wood, the smaller the speed, slower the speed you need in the gearbox.
Now obviously making pegs as we do is a lovely way to do it, each one individually by hand, but it is quite a slow process. And when we're on a big build we might be needing 300 to 400 pegs. So having some way of speeding up the process has always been something we've been looking at. And Peter has made this wonderful turning head for us, which is just a great piece of DIY engineering on his part. We've got this lovely Robin Reliant gearbox that he's pulled out of an old second-hand car and got that going to give me the speed of turning on this machine. He's also managed to find a second-hand 110 volt motor, so we can use it through a transformer, so it's actually reaches site safety for using on building sites. And it can really speed up the whole process of making pegs.
The kids used to like doing that at school, and then one boy, he got it caught up here in his trousers. You can imagine what the other kids thought to it.